Guys, Nintendo has forgotten about Mario. I mean, the Switch 2 has been out for ages, and we've only gotten 5 games, a movie trailer, and 2 spin-offs. I'm seriously starting to think it's time to refund this thing. I mean, it has no games. Yeah, admittedly it does sound a little weird to speculate on Mario games as if we aren't being fed them constantly. But with the wealth of sub-series in this franchise, it's hard not to wonder when each of our favorites will get a new entry. That's why in this video, I'll be going through every corner of the Mario universe to figure out when we can expect brand new games in each series. Because the question was never if we're gonna see Mario again, it's where does he go next? Let's get the obvious out of the way first. Everyone is anticipating DLC or some major additional content for Mario Kart World to be announced very soon. All of our evidence is pointing to the expansion being themed around Donkey Kong. Not only are he and Pauline the only major characters in the game to suspiciously have just one skin, but the voice actors for Void Kong and K. Rool are inexplicably listed in the credits as well. The game also omitted series staple characters like Diddy Kong, who was just brought back with a brand new redesign in Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Tennis Fever. It just feels weird that despite Nintendo's big push of the Donkey Kong brand, he was so underrepresented in their biggest game of the generation. So as far as us fans are concerned, this is all but confirmed. There's just one major monkey wrench that was thrown into this commonly accepted theory that sort of complicates things a bit. That of course being, it should have happened by now. Mario's 40th anniversary celebration gave us a ton of announcements, which all came in the form of a controversial September Direct. The general consensus was that the reveals just didn't have much substance, and I, along with many others, were just left wondering, where's the Mario Kart update? I mean, that was the perfect time to drop something like that, so why didn't they? Well, I still firmly believe that the DK expansion exists, and if you'll let me get a little conspiratorial, I think that it's being held back. Contrary to what you've probably heard online, Nintendo has been actively supporting Mario Kart World. I'm generally of the opinion that the company just kinda does their own thing and doesn't listen too closely to criticism from fans or game journalists. But the work they've done on Mario Kart post-launch shows that, at least in this case, they are listening. I think the best example of this is how they addressed the contention surrounding intermission tracks. Not only did they update the routes, but they also added new hazards and features to keep the game feeling fresh. I mean, they fixed almost everything that people were complaining about at launch. Almost. The only controversy that they haven't mended is arguably the biggest one, that $80 price tag. Even diehard fans like me had a hard time validating that price point, so most of us just bought the bundle. And given those attempts to combat criticism I mentioned before, I think it's fair to say that Nintendo knows this. It seems very likely that this DK expansion is a paid DLC, and I think internally, Nintendo's waiting for things to cool off before they ask their consumers for another $20 to $30. The company definitely still intends on supporting this game throughout the generation, but they've got to play their cards very carefully. Because even for a guy like me who loves Donkey Kong, there's no way I'm spending $100 on Mario Kart. Regardless, I am still predicting that Mario Kart World DLC specifically tailored towards Donkey Kong will be announced and released this year in 2026. With the upcoming release of Mario Wonder Switch 2 Edition, I think it's fair to say that we'll be waiting a little while for another full 2D Mario adventure. My guess is that the team learned from their mistakes when developing the new Super Series and will likely be spreading out game releases and innovating further in each new entry to avoid redundancy. To be honest, I think that this one's a little bit too far off to realistically lock in a release year, but it'll probably come out sometime in the middle of the Switch 2 generation. With that said, however, I still think Nintendo's developers are working on something right now that I don't see get brought up very often. As longtime viewers of the channel know, Nintendo's internal development is split into several teams referred to as EPD, or Entertainment Planning and Development Teams. Each of these groups are assigned a couple of franchises to focus on. For example, EPD 5 develops Animal Crossing and Splatoon games. In the case of 2D Mario though, these games are developed by EPD 10, the team also responsible for Pikmin and Mario Maker. Pikmin 4 was their latest release back in 2024, and Mario Wonder came before it in 2023, meaning that all but one of their series have been accounted for in recent years. That exception, of course, being Mario Maker, as the last game in that series came out all the way back in 2019, almost 7 years ago. And beyond that, Pikmin 4, Pikmin 3, and Mario Wonder all got updates for Switch 2, but Mario Maker suspiciously didn't. And it's not like they don't have reason to either. The Switch 2's new mouse mode functionality would be perfect for Mario Maker. Updating the last game should really be a no-brainer. Unless they have something to hide. But obviously, the same old game with mouse functionality really isn't gonna cut it for a full-blown sequel. This new game, that we'll call Mario Maker 3, will really need to shake things up a lot. Mario Maker is a massive deal for sure, but with the Switch 2's backwards compatibility, it'll need a whole new UVP. My first thought on how they could address this would be by adding new styles. Mario Wonder just came out, so adding a style for that game complete with an array of preset Wonder Seed effects would be amazing. But of course, that's not all. I think the biggest addition to this game could be classic 3D modes. In these modes, instead of reaching the flagpole, you could instead try to nab a collectible like a star in a Mario 64 style. Or maybe you could experiment with gravity in a Mario Galaxy mode. To really make this idea work, they'd have to strip these games down to their most basic parts, but honestly, it would really help differentiate Mario Maker 3 in a way that I don't think simply adding more features to the classic's 2D styles ever could. I could see a new Mario Maker game getting announced this year, but releasing in 2027. Alright, this franchise has loads of spin-off series, so we're gonna have to rapid fire a few of these. Getting the obvious out of the way, Mario Party is getting another release in 2027 or 2028. These games release every 3 years on the dot, and Jamboree dropped in 2024. Seriously, the only guarantees in life are death, taxes, and Mario Party. This is definitely happening. The only reason why I could see us having to wait until 2028 is because of the Switch 2 edition of Jamboree that was released last year. Moving right along, Mario Tennis Fever is releasing this month, so I similarly don't expect we'll see a new Mario sports game for a while unless it's Strikers or Baseball, but I seriously doubt we'll see Strikers anytime soon for reasons I'll get to later, and my hopes for a new baseball game have been completely destroyed at this point, so look forward to Mario Golf in 2028. Now let's take a quick detour into games that I think are actually possible to release this year. And maybe this is a hot take because I have not seen anybody else talk about it, but we're due for a new WarioWare game, right? With WarioWare Move It releasing in 2023, only 2 years after Get It Together, as well as the potential that mouse controls have for the series, it feels like a no-brainer. I think they'll show this one off in the annual June Nintendo Direct and slate it for the end of the year sometime between September and November. But getting right back to the disappointment, I really don't see a Mario RPG happening anytime soon. Brothership was released right before the Switch 2 in 2024, and Paper Mario got the Thousand Year Door remake in the same year. I know some people are going to say that Origami King is 6 years old, but given the fact that the Thousand Year Door was a ground-up remake, I think we can pretty well count it as a new entry in the series and delay our expectations until at least 2027. And last, but definitely not least, a lot of people are claiming that this is the year for Luigi's Mansion 4, and yeah, I think this is very, very likely. The last game released by Next Level Games was Mario Strikers Battle League in 2022, a full 4 years ago, and Luigi's Mansion 3 dropped all the way back in 2019. I've noticed some confusion among fans debating if Luigi's Mansion is due for another game since LM2 got an upscaled re-release on Switch in 2024. But what these fans are missing is that this upscaling was actually done by Tantalus Media, not Next Level Games. And furthermore, the rush to get more Luigi's Mansion games on Switch very well may have been to better set up the 4th game. Not to mention the fact that Dark Moon and 3 were released only 6 years apart from one another, and this is the 7th year since 3's release. It all just makes so much sense when you look at the dev cycles. Especially since Next Level Games officially became a Nintendo subsidiary in 2021. Hopefully this take doesn't age poorly, but I am very confident that we'll see this game between June and October of this year. And now, we've officially ventured through every part of the Mushroom Kingdom, which has brought us right back here to probably the most hotly debated Mario topic online right now. You guys, I promise not to be Nintendo Landy about this, but I think it's time. You know, I started this video planning to say that it definitely was not going to happen this year, but looking at everything else around it, I've officially changed my mind. The very first video I ever posted on this channel was me theorizing that the next 3D Mario would drop in March of this year. And while we still technically have a month to see if I'm right, let's be real, I was wrong. But I still stand by a number of the points that I made in that video. I'll link it here just in case you missed it, but the TLDR is that it just makes sense that the latest 3D Mario adventure would release early into the console's life. Mario Odyssey is 9 years old. It would be insane to think that they'd wait much longer. And we still don't have answers on what a number of Mario's senior developers were working on while a fraction of EPD3 made Donkey Kong Bonanza. Not to mention that everything we speculated on today doesn't hurt its chances at all. Luigi's Mansion is being developed by Next Level Games, WarioWare isn't a big enough release to hold the end of the year on its own, and the first wave of Mario Kart DLC is probably already completed. And I get it. I know we have all been burned by speculating on this game, but I just feel it in my soul that it's still happening in 2026. At the very least, I'm expecting a reveal this year. At the very latest, maybe a release in early 2027, but if Nintendo doesn't drop it soon, they've really got to get their heads in the game. Maybe I'm just coping, but I genuinely think these next 2 years are going to be huge for Nintendo. And they won't stop at just Mario. Last time, we checked out Zelda's future forecast. You can click right here to see that. And for the rest of you, as always, please remember, believe to achieve.